Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining another session of Water Unscripted. So it's been quite busy months for me lately, so I couldn't organize earlier a session. I was in Africa for the last 4 weeks. I had the chance to visit all our subsidiaries, and in fact, I went to 5 countries. And it's really exciting to see how Desalytics is growing in terms of both employees, customer base, knowledge, and processes. So, for example, like today you are around 37 employees, 50% gender diversity, and the best thing across 11 nationalities. So it's really exciting. And I was lucky and honored to chair the water event in Kigali in Rwanda, and this was my first trip to Rwanda and see how things have evolved since 20 years ago, since the genocide. It's pretty impressive. So if you have time to visit, go ahead. So the next few weeks are going to be also busy, so I doubt we'll have another live stream soon, but because I'll be going to WEFTEC and we'll be talking about WEFTEC later, and also I have Saudi meetings, and I'll go to Uganda and Spain for HO Innovations meeting. So pretty busy. But today we have with us 2 speakers, and the topics we'll be covering are the circular water economy and WEFTEC with Marlowe, with Walter Marlowe. And then later we'll talk about membrane autopsies and desalination membrane autopsies and why it's important, and what do we look when we do the autopsies, with Dr. Nuria Peña García. So without further ado, I would like to bring in on screen Walt. Hi, Walt. How are you doing?
Good, Waleed. Great to be here.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us today. So I would like to talk with you about the circular water economy. I mean, we talk a lot about it, but what is it exactly?
Yeah, so circular water economy, thankfully, the concept is getting a lot of traction in the water community now. But when you really think about it, it has its roots in an age-old problem, right? How do we identify, how do we collect, how do we conserve water? For a long, long time, that was the big issue for all of us. But as the world's becoming a more congested place, as we have more demands on our water supply, as we're encountering changes from climate change, we're adding a whole nother host of topics to having to manage our water supply. How do we recover it after we've used it? How do we recycle it? How do we reuse it both for industrial applications, for environmental restoration, even for drinking water? So it's really a big age-old problem that's gotten more and more important, and we're trying to put a nice title on it to tie up the concept, because it's really about how do we get people to think differently about our resources, and for us in particular, water.
Okay, that's great. And what are the trends you're seeing? Why is it so important? How do you see it moving going forward?
Yeah, well, this century, I'm a firm believer that water is the issue of this century. It's going to cause more problems with global relations, with the economy, with our quality of life. So trying to deal with this issue has become hugely important. We're starting to get much more awareness of it, not only within our industry, but in the general public. So we're starting to get a will to address these issues and address them in a comprehensive manner, so that we're, making use of what was formerly considered waste streams, and really getting value out of them, and ensuring that our water does not go to waste, no matter where you're talking in the process. So extremely important. And we see the trends, trying to address this both at the large utility level, but also at, smaller communities and local solutions also. There's wonderful examples all around the world of how we can, all do our part to address this issue.
Thank you, Walt. And I know that you're the executive director at the Water Environment Federation, and you guys are really involved a lot in the circular economy through your large membership of, most of the leaders in the industry are part of this federation. So you're soon organizing WebTech, and I'm happy to be there to be attending
Right.
in 2 weeks. So what's the latest about WebTech?
Yeah. So the Water Environment Federation, global organization, we have over 30,000 members who work in the water sector, who are really coming together to address some of these challenges, including the circular water economy. As part of how we serve our members and provide an opportunity for them to come together, exchange their information, learn from each other, we run WEFTEC every year, and it's the world's largest annual water event. This year it is being held in New Orleans in the US, and we expect close to 17,000 people in attendance. We'll have over 800 companies who are part of our exhibition and bringing their knowledge and solutions to share with the industry. So we're real excited about that, those portions. And then, of course, the education is unparalleled with hundreds of hours of opportunities for people to improve their skills, but also contribute to the knowledge base in some of our discussion forums. One area that I'm really always excited about is our innovation pavilion. As we try to address the circular water economy, coming up with new ideas, new ways to treat our water, and new ways to reuse our water. Some of the firms that have key technologies, key solutions are going to be featured in our innovation pavilion. And then the other part is our global pavilion, because solving the water problem is a global issue. And we're going to need good ideas from all around the world. There's many countries that have extremely advanced solutions. I always think of Denmark, I think of South Korea, Singapore, of course, at the top of the list. So representatives from all those areas will be participating in WEFTEC and sharing their knowledge to hopefully help everyone bring back solutions to their local communities and their local challenges.
It's good you mentioned the global pavilion. Last year, I was lucky to present about Africa and how to do business in Africa at the global pavilion. So it was great exposure, and I had very good connections back then.
Great. Do we have you on the program this year?
This year I was late to sign up. There was a lot of challenges with all the conferences, but I'm sure we'll find ways to schedule something with the other pavilions. So how does it compare to last year? I mean, I remember last year when I went in Chicago, it was like the first event after the pandemic, or second large event after the pandemic, and it was interesting. I mean, I found it very intense because we were able to connect really with people. Everybody who was there was really committed. So how do you think this year will be compared to last year?
Yeah. So like you said, last year was an interesting experience coming back for the first time after the pandemic. We were, a little more than 40% of our usual size, which we were really excited because, as you said, it was really the core of the community that was really just dying to come back together. And we were able to have a successful event, which was great. This year is going to be more than double the size of last year, which is wonderful. And I guess if you go back to pre-COVID, we're probably back to about 85% of the full-size show. So we're really, really happy about that. But more than the size of the event, it's more the quality of the people that are coming together, the opportunities to learn. I always say when people ask me, how big is it going to be? And, we say 17, 20,000 people, and sometimes people go, oh, it's not as big as this year. And I said, well, you're not going to get a chance to meet all 20,000 people. So hopefully you'll come away with 100, 200 new, really strong contacts. But, it's a big event. It covers the full spectrum of what's going on in the water industry. Oh, and then, the thing that I always have to mention is, for those of you that are able to come to WEFTEC, make sure you come into the exhibit hall and watch our Ops Challenge event, which is this year we're going to have close to 50 teams from around the world who are competing in operator, tasks. And it is one of the most exciting, joyous things at WEFTEC. And I really encourage everybody, don't miss that if you happen to be coming to it.
I agree with you. It's a great opportunity. So thank you, Walter, for joining us. I'm looking forward to meeting you in WEFTech, and I invite everyone who has not had the chance to register yet to go ahead and register. I've put on the screen how you can register. So see you in 10 days.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thanks. Take care. Our next speaker will be Dr. Nuria Peña García, and she joined us from Spain today, and we'll be talking a little bit more about membranes and autopsies. I mean, we talk always about like desalination and so on, but then at the end of the day, we have challenges, and we need to fix the challenges. So, Dr. Nuria, thank you for joining us first.
Thanks to everyone joining the live stream, and thanks to you, Walid, for this opportunity. I think it's great to meet people by this way and to exchange ideas and to be able to show our work and our experience. And of course, our subject today is quite different. You were discussing about a global idea about water. Now we are going to concentrate on a small part of it, our contribution, but I think all of us contribute in some way or other to improve the technology that we need to recover, to reuse water, etc. So our point of view is different. We are going from the global to the tiny and the microscopy on the membranes. Okay.
Correct. And I think it's a good segue because we were talking about the circular water economy, and one of the key tools today to achieve the circular water economy is to use advanced treatment, which are membrane-based solutions. And as you mentioned, now we're going even very detailed to understand the membrane itself and the challenges that might affect the membrane and how to solve them out. So let me bring in your screen, your presentation, and maybe you can walk us through a little bit some of the findings you find and how you go ahead for the membrane autopsies.
Yeah, sure. I guess, am I sharing already my full screen, I guess, Walid?
Definitely, we have the full screen. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so let's talk about membrane autopsies. As I said, let's go from that global and the idea and the abstract idea of water treatment to the real material that we need. In some cases, what we do is to make membrane autopsies. I work in H2O innovation. As part of Genesys and into H2O innovation, there is a group of companies working hardly trying to provide specialty chemicals, components, and consumables. We have 3 laboratories, okay? One of them is based in Manchester, more focused on the research of and development of chemicals. Another one in San Diego, in California. They work both on the development of chemicals and on membrane autopsies. And our lab, based in Spain, where I work, is the one giving the analytical service to our company and to customers. Okay, so it is important to keep in mind that to analyze a system, of course, it's important considering the membrane and the failure of the membrane, but there are any other ways to contribute from a lab to help to improve the performance of a system and the treatment of water, okay? I have included here a diagram of a plant. And of course, the autopsy of the membrane will give the end of the failure, how it affects one of the most important components of the process. But in some cases, it is necessary also to analyze additional components, okay? So, for example, it is important to optimize in some cases the pretreatment of the water about disinfection, about the acetylene system, etc. That's something that can be done also in a lab. And also to characterize the water, not only the ions that are going to have a scaling potential that, of course, we have to know when we are talking about desalination, but also the suspended matter, which when will reach the membrane, for sure will fool it. It will deposit because membranes were developed just to retain salts. So whenever it is not removed during the pretreatment, will affect the membrane And it's very important to have a very good identification, both about the composition, which is something that can be obtained, for example, by analyzing the cartridge filters, or at some point, the source of certain material or components in foulant, which could be obtained from SDI filters, because by doing analysis on the SDI paths that you may obtain in plant when you make the measurements, you can have very useful information about certain components that may reach finally the membranes. And also, of course, the size of the particles coming with the water to really understand if a filter is working properly or not. So there are many different analyses that can be done, okay? Today we are going to focus on the autopsies. Maybe if you want to learn more about what to do with the pretreatment, we could join a different live stream with Wally to talk about. So membrane autopsies will give the failure of the membrane. It is a very important tool to understand why membranes are not working properly, okay? After many autopsies, for us, the main causes of membrane failure are, well, here we are showing 3, but they are actually 2. One is that damage, and the other is fouling or foulant. Okay, damage can have 2 different sources, physical or chemical damage. So the autopsies will give the clue. It is the only tool to distinguish if we are having a bad salt rejection, if it's due to a physical or mechanical damage, or to a chemical damage related to oxidation, incompatible chemicals, etc. And the third one, which is actually the most important, because the highest percentage of the membranes we autopsy show foulant as the main cause of failure. As I said, is fouling, and it can be reversible if a suitable and effective cleaner is applied on time. Okay, but to select a cleaner, it is basic and essential to have a very good identification of the foulant. Foulants have a composite nature. There are multi-components on it. So it is necessary to have information about all of them to really choose the best cleaner, because that will mean a better performance of the cleaning procedure. We have to keep in mind always that the final impact of the presence of foulant on membranes, it's an irreversible damage, okay? So if a cleaning procedure is not applied on time, if we are not using an appropriate cleaner, at the end, that reversible problem that we have, which is foulant, will turn into irreversible, okay? So the autopsy gives this clue. It says which is actually the problem, and if it will be possible to recover the membrane performance or not by doing tests at the lab. I must say that along the years, I've been doing autopsies for almost 20 years already. We have observed an improvement in the knowledge of the people working at the plants. So the problems that we were facing during autopsies when we started to make them were more simple than nowadays. Now the studies we make at the lab are more complicated. It's more difficult to find the failure, because we understand that there is a better performance of operators in plant. That's something very good for the market, and that means that there is already an experience in desalination, which is something very, very good. But in any case, we still have to face with problems, okay? And there is where the membrane autopsy helps to identify the problem, okay? Here we are showing a photograph of the mess we have sometimes in the lab with membranes, because we receive many membranes per year. And we are going to have just some points about the procedure very, very fast. And we are not going to really go into the technical details, but just to show you the main parts of this process. An autopsy involves many tests, analysis, inspection, etc. It's important to have at the end a global idea. In some cases, customers ask just for specific details, but it doesn't make sense. An autopsy has to be seen and considered as a global summary of results and data. So we always include an external inspection, internal inspection, and tests and analysis. External inspection is essential. I mentioned this because in some cases we receive membranes from all over the world, and customers ask to send just membrane samples, membrane coupons. We lose a lot of information. Okay, just having a look to the full element, we can have very valuable information about, for example, some problems with the treatment, as on this membrane showing a high amount of carbon, anthracite probably, how these particles can go in between some membrane envelopes and damage the membrane after, spacer protrusion related to some high dP issues, for example. And also during the internal inspection, even not going to sophisticated analytical techniques, it's possible to detect some issues on the membrane. In some cases, that high amount of filtration material reaching the membrane may produce preferential channels and to accumulate on certain envelopes. Polyamide delamination. I don't know if you see my mouse, how I'm showing it, but it's something that when it's very significant, we can observe just visually. And of course, the presence of foulant. And also during this internal inspection is where we take samples. And it's one of the critical steps on the autopsy, to choose the right sample to get the more representative information from the membrane. We can see here on the full element how there is a different color, for example, at the rejection side than on the feed side. This inspection, in some cases, just gives information about different kind of foulants at the feed and at the end. So this part is really important and critical, as I said. And then after sampling, we of course have to make different analytical techniques and tests. And we use different tools depending on the needs and the objective of the study. We always carry out systematic analysis, but it's important also to have a feedback from customers and from the people working in the plant to know about the objective of the study, because then we can focus more on specific issues as damage, for example, or the composition of foulant, etc. There are many different tests and analysis and analytical techniques available, okay? But there are two main tools that we use for studying foulant, which are, for example, scanning electron microscopy. This is basic for us. It's like to have a look on the membrane. We just magnify and start seeing how the foulant is distributed or how it may affect the membrane. We have included here some examples on this white and black photograph. We can see how a foulant looks, the most common mixture of organic with colloidal matter, for example. Or we can have a look also on this colored photograph about how the foulant and the different components of foulant, which are colored different here, are distributed on membrane surface, or if they have an impact on the membrane surface, causing some damage, okay? By this way, by this scanning electron microscopy, we can identify the foulant components to see how it is distributed, but it's an elementary analytical technique, so we need to use additional analysis to really verify how the elements that we detect here are related, which will be, for example, this infrared spectroscopy, which spectra I'm showing here, that give information about functional groups, and some database can be used to really identify the composition of the foulant components. In this case, I included an example of an organic foulant, which is biofilm actually, but this technique also allows to check chemical integrity of the polyamide damage. So these are tools that certainly allow to study both the composition of foulant, which is necessary for cleaning tests, etc., and also the integrity of the membrane. And what is more important to know how those failures or the presence of foulant affects the parameters, the performance parameters of the membrane. So during autopsies, it is necessary to check also both flux and salt rejection, which will give an idea about how the issues that we are detecting before are affecting the performance of the membrane, which at the end is what we really need to know. Here we are including an example of some membranes giving a lower flux than expected. That will be related to a foulant, for example. And in any case, always based on these parameters, we carry out cleaning tests, which are the tools to check if the membrane performance can be recovered or not. So here I have included a graph of different tests done in one of our autopsies where we check different cleaners. And we check, for example, in this case, the increase in flux. And considering the highest, we say, okay, this cleaner is the best. And then we have to optimize the cleaning procedure by applying different steps, different contact times, different pHs to really get the best way to remove the foulant and to be able to verify if it's possible to recover the membrane performance. And that's basically what an autopsy is. We cannot go in detail to many more analytical techniques, etc. But if anyone has any question or that, they may contact me, and I'll be happy to share more information.
Thank you, Doctor. I have a question from Ryan. I'll just pull the question on the screen. So, what about external inspection of scaling in the membrane? What do you do on the external inspection?
Well, external inspection of scaling. Well, scaling is produced into the membrane, okay? It is true that in some cases, during the external inspection, it is possible to detect the scaling, imagine, on the react side of the membrane, sometimes on the external housing, which will be related to different tissues. But the internal inspection, when there is a scaling, it doesn't give much information. It is necessary to open it and to take samples and to analyze, unless the membrane is very heavy. Scaled membranes, when there is a massive scaling, will weigh a lot more than the reference weight of the membrane. That with that information, you could say my membrane is scaled. If it's 40 kilograms, for sure you have a scaling. That would be the main information with no need to open a membrane to know if it's scaled or not.
Yeah. Another question. Thank you, Dr. Nuria. Another question from my friend Bart. So he's asking for if you measure the SAC 254 and for organic fouling, and also if you do specific autopsy due to chlorine, do you test any chlorine damage?
Well, we don't measure that UV, that measurement about UV. We don't measure it on organic fouling. Okay, it's something that it's commonly measured in water, but not for organic fouling. It is necessary. We really look for identifying, okay, to really know how much there is about an organic component. For example, consider that the foulant is a solid, so we commonly make loss of ignition or thermogravimetrical analysis, which are based on the temperature degradation of certain components to determine organic component as a global concept, but not its measurement at 254 nanometers. And of course, we make also autopsies to determine if the problem is chlorine or not. We didn't have time to show it, but there are specific tools and tests to check if the membrane were in contact with halogens. Fujiwara test is a very traditional test, but also XPS or ISCA, could even distinguish if the oxidant agent is chlorine, bromine, or other component. So yeah, during autopsies, it's something quite common to check if chlorine is the cause of the failure.
Thank you, Nuria. I have a question from my side. Like, how long typically it takes from the day you receive a membrane to the full autopsy? On average, how long it takes? How many days, process-wise?
It depends on the objective of the autopsy. To have an identification of foulant will be in 2 weeks, for example. But to have a full autopsy, checking integrity, cleaning tests, etc., it commonly takes 4 weeks. Okay. It depends also on the hurry. We always try to adapt to the needs of the customer. If there is a real hurry, a real problem, in some cases there is a very important meeting, we try to adapt our delivery time to that. But if not, it takes time because you need certain information before you make cleaning tests.
Okay, and it's an interesting question coming from Juan Pablo. So I know you guys do a lot of also product development. So this question is right on time. So do you use the information you identify, to develop better chemistries?
Well, yeah, sure. Actually, it is the way to have it, and we always check for example, the cleaners we develop during autopsies. When, at least in our company, when we start selling chemicals or cleaners, we have tested already on real foulants. And to use this information, of course, because from all this data, we already have some statistics about which is the most common foulant, which is the most common mixture of foulant components, etc. So yeah, for sure, data from autopsies are a very, very good tool to develop cleaning procedures, cleaners, etc.
Excellent. Thank you, Doctor. I think we're running out of time. I'd like to thank you and also Walt for joining us today. And so thank you extremely. I will be posting these videos online. Here is Walt also, so thank you. I'll be posting the videos online and we can all see them later. So thanks for everyone who has joined also.
Thank you.